Hello, chess friends. This is International Master Valeri Lilov, and welcome to today's broadcast on YouTube. So, today we're going to be talking about a very key topic that has to do with time. See, understanding the concepts of tempo and time are probably two of the most valuable things that a player needs to know. And while it's definitely a little bit of a challenge to follow them, I'm going to try to give you a couple of different ideas that can help you quite a bit in your own games. So let's see a couple of examples on how one of the greatest players ever, the great world champion and incredible attacking player Alexander Alekhine, was able to actually use the concepts of tempo and time to an incredible extent in a few of his best games. So I'm going to show you these because, again, they're really great games and there's just so much to learn from them. So we're going to begin with the game that was played between Alekhine himself and a player named Rosano. This was played in Alekhine's early years, 1907. Now, a couple real important principles can be found through this game, but let us begin. So, White started off with e4. There was e5, knight f3, knight c6, d4 exchange, and then knight takes d4. I mean, that type of development was pretty straightforward. Everything White did was about making sure the center is good, and then after knight takes to the d4, it is quite good. Knight f6, exchange, b takes to the c, and then bishop d3. See, the first thing that you realize is that tempo and time are incredibly important for one specific stage of the game, and we are referring to the opening. When you're playing the opening, everything is about speed and time. It's all about, can I actually go faster and make things really just get a bit better. See, it's a huge deal because if you're able to do this, if you're able to do it in such a way, everything, and I literally mean everything, is supposed in one way or another to work out for you. So give yourself the time and really build it. So now what we see is that after bishop to d3, White is supporting the center and he wants to spend the least amount of time in waiting. See, now this is the simplest rule we begin with. Fast speed development with the idea to control the center and bring out the rest of the pieces. So now every piece of White sets out to be on the most advanced square, keeps challenging Black, and now as Black castled, White plays bishop g5. Just the fact itself that you actually get to develop your pieces on advanced positions is enough to bring forward all the danger and all the different actual threats that White is intending. Beautiful move. Now, of course, we're having the ability to attack against the f6. We're having the threat against the d5 too. So there is plenty of different moves that White is setting up for, and it all looks good. They all look pretty decent. Now, in that sense, Black actually played with c6, and of course, White simply continued with queen f3, bishop g4, and queen to g3. Everything looks good. Indeed, there is a good pressure over the g4 bishop, but what I find most helpful here is that White doesn't delay it. See, and that's the thing that you really want. Don't delay your development. The moment you delay it, things just start getting a little stray. So White didn't want that. There is the setup of bishop takes f6 as a threat right now, and it all comes just in the right time. See, no reason to try and do different. So we have bishop takes f6. We've got queen takes g4 that can be played out. And then as Black played with bishop h5, White does a move of queen to the e5. There's bishop to g6, bishop takes the g6, h takes g6, and then rook a to the d1, which was really solid. And in fact, it was interesting because then, you see, the time and tempo are not actually utilized in order to start some huge tactics. Now, you certainly need that when you're going to build certain tactics, but what you need them for most is the chance to really and effectively bring your pieces together. It's like by having all those pieces in line for white, that this really matters a lot because he's got the tension over e7, he's got the f6, he's got the pieces, and they're much better than black's. Really important. So bishop d6, queen d4, and queen c7. Obviously, black is simply getting ahead with his own development, hoping that he will be able to challenge maybe against the h7 and do things well. So it's a good position. It's a good looking plan. Now, of course, the right question is what to do with white. We could eventually defend the h2, or we could try to think about pushing the pawn. Both of those look fine as moves, but what do we really do? What's the best way to follow? See, it's really important to think about it like that because, yes, there is a challenge and it looks a little troublesome, but White wanted to simply maintain. And I'm going to tell you this. When it comes down to time, you do have time in most times in the game because time really depends on only one thing, and this is what your opponent's threatening or what is he doing. If he's not threatening or if he's not doing anything, there is no reason why you should hurry. There's no reason why you should rush or you should try this or that. Not at all. On the contrary, you just can take the time, all the time that is necessary or needed, and regroup or set out or bring your pieces so that they can play well. And that is what white is actually doing right now. He is simply bringing the queen close. It protects the h2. Now we're having some sort of a challenge against the f6 of black, and things really work out well. At h7, and of course there is bishop to e3. Black plays f5, and then white plays f4. See this. Black neither got the time to set up and improve or regroup his pieces, nor any of them is playing a role. It was so simple, and yet so effective. See, all this is very well explained in the course beneath the video that is actually by a pretty strong player, Grandmaster. And if you take a look at this, he talks a lot about the different ideas of how time impacts a certain position and what you can do to make time really, like mean something. It's a big deal. But don't forget that kind of idea. Most times, it's actually just about a positional strength that you can get. And then eventually you can build from there. White is able to cut off black's bishop from d6 to restrict the knight, which is on h7, in the corner. And this is how it all works. After f4, black played king f7. And then after king f7, surely white just played the move of bishop to d4. It's a perfect move. The h7 threat is there. Most of black's actual pieces just don't work. And as he played alongside rook h8, white did rook de1. Knight f6, queen g5, knight g4. See, white got enough time, enough pieces, and good set. What should we do now? I want you to take a moment here and think a little bit more about this position. It's a really important position, and it's really key to find out. I mean, how is white going to use the current amount of forces in order to create different challenges against black's position? So that's a huge thing. It's a huge deal. Now, first of all, the threat is definitely there. Black is keeping us a little bit back. He wants to play moves of rook h5 and others, so that's not very nice. But then white got the activity. He got everything that he was supposed to get. So we can't just say, I'm not having anything. I don't have any attack or whatever. How do we use the current power of white's own pieces to deliver what would be, I'd say, enough so you can keep up and challenge black more effectively? That's a big question. It's not an easy question, but it is a big question. It just needs to be answered very carefully. Now, the way white played it, found a fantastic way. The way white played it was this: rook e6. When you have more pieces developed and prepared, you're ahead in time. And you could actually use that to combine. Now, that's the biggest thing about this. You could use this to really coordinate, combine your forces, and start challenging your opponent in different ways. That was something he did not expect. And it was also something that was very beautiful, because by just looking at the position, you understand the problems that are actually going to happen at that position. There's going to be the g6. There's going to be the, like more type of things that will come out in the position. It's a beautiful idea. Think about this. How can you get your pieces to connect? And then as soon as you get them to connect, it's all perfect. Now what we've got is a smart idea of attacking against his g6, and we also have a smart idea of attacking against his g7. I mean, that's really not the kind of position that black is liking, but there isn't so much he can do. Perfect sequence. Rook e6. Unexpected. Brilliant. King takes d6, and then queen takes g6. Now, if the king goes back, surely there's queen takes g7 plus the take there. Queen takes f5. So black decided, okay, I'm going to do, well, I have to do king d7. I mean, king e7, rook e1, and white took f5. Every move is either punching him with a forcing move or a threat, or it actually helps us to, like just hold him there along in more time. And that's really painful. Now black played bishop f8 to defend. Remember that you've got to have those breathing moments, as I call them, like after queen takes g4, because those type of moves are just helping us to get the to keep our pieces versus the opponent. Now he's not actually going anywhere. He's not being able to long set at the castle and to hide his king and everything. And it's a beautiful thing. Black is down. He's a little behind in development. And of course, then ultimately, black can't move with the king to the c8 out there. And that's just good. Remember, keep your opponent back there in a more difficult position. So if the bishop f8 was played, then white plays rook to the e1. Queen d7, queen g5 check. The king goes to c7, and then white plays alongside with rook to e3. And that's the two things that I always say are most important when you lead an attack. You either lead the attack through challenges, like forcing moves, threats, or you lead your attack through what I'd call reinforcing type of moves. Moves that keep him under pressure for a little bit longer. And as he's got to stay there, that's obviously going to mean a lot more problems to him. And that's the issue. With the black king down there and the rest of his pieces, they just don't look good. Now, of course, there's going to be knight b5 and all this coming, so it's just a matter of time. I love the way on how this whole thing develops. And look at this speed. Again, tempo in chess, speed is always dependent on your opponent's ability to counter you. If that factor is not there, if you limited him, you've taken away the speed. So black tried rook e8. Of course, white didn't exchange. He played rook b3 check. Okay, checking. King a8. And now we find out that all he needs to do is to find out what's missing. So he finds the time for the queen to move around, stopping the black rook from checking and being able to maneuver itself down to the d3 towards the a6, so things can be over as quickly as a blink. Bishop e5, c5, rook b5. Of course, there's the attack on the c5 and d5. Black defends, but it doesn't really matter because white is able to play c4 now. And look at the difference now. See, there is a more fundamental matter going on here beyond the simple idea of, oh, white is active and black is passive. It is the fact that white can do things. I call that the ability to progress. White can do things, and black has to stay. That's genuinely what a tempo is. Tempo is the opportunity to win an extra move, to get an extra possibility. And it's a very, very beautiful one. It's a really great move with the d5 attack. Now, black is in trouble because of this. And then, of course, he plays at a6. But then white jumps in just simply with knight b6. Rook takes the b, rook takes the b, king a7, queen g6, queen a4, and then rook to the b3. And we're seeing both the threat of queen to the b6, as well as the idea of playing the move of queen f7. Two of those just coming. Black can't defend them. It's too much. It's really too much. So the game was over, basically. Queen c6, queen f7, king goes out, c takes d5. So what really helped white to win this game were three things. First, fast development. Opening is all about speed. Bring out every piece once and only move it twice when it's necessary. Like here, black attack the queen, so we do that. Second, remember that you win most time by limiting your opponent, because pacing in chess, the pacing of your plan, the tempo is in a way dependent on the opponent. White made very active pieces and he limited black's own pieces so that he could get all that time. And more importantly, remember to use the windows. The windows of opportunity are easy. I mean, ultimately, you feel like you sense the position is ready, so you break, or you think about break. But then there are these other windows, as I call the improving windows, like the moment for which you have to take a second and figure out, how do I actually add these necessary improvements while I have the time, while my opponent's behind, and even though he's defended, he's not doing anything. You see, white used those moves perfectly to make moves like f4 and bishop d4. And that moment of opportunity helped the other moment of opportunity when there was already a direct tactic line that simply led black to his demise. I love the idea on how white was able to also combine the forcing moves with the reinforcing. And in the end, he was very easily winning. Now, once again, remember that those rules, those principles are not written in stone. These are just great guidelines for you to follow when you keep on playing. But if you want to expand your knowledge and learn a lot more about how tempo or time works in chess, I really recommend you to check the course below the link. It's with an incredible discount just for the next few hours, and it covers a lot about these strategic motives of time, space, attacking, piece coordination, and so on and so forth. I'm sure you're going to love it, and you have a great time learning from this.